Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to my autobiography, The Perils of an Interesting Life. This is episode 5, Music Changes Everything. So, where we left off, I had just gotten my download of music, and the church that my father was pastoring at the time was imploding with some kind of strange demonic attack. My cousin had trashed my school and ran away from home. And so I kind of want to complete my story of La Grande, Oregon, because this was such a pivotal point in my life. It literally changed everything. And I talked about in a previous episode how I met a little girl whose name was Patty up on the mountain lake before we had moved into the city of La Grande, and her and I had had a little summer romance, and I had a crush on her for sure, and I thought the feeling was mutual. And when I came to school, because I was the new guy and an outsider, she ignored me, acted like she never knew me, pretended like that wasn't her all summer long up at the lake. And that was one of the most heartbreaking things about all that. Yeah, I mean, I got whipped by 5 guys. My mom got cancer. My dad had a heart attack. Our church fell apart. And my cousin went to prison, or ran away. He would later go to prison. And to me, one of the most heartbreaking things was the fact that that little girl just ignored me. And so I kind of got a little bit of a grudge against her. You know, I just didn't speak to her. I never went around her. I stopped liking her immediately. And I had my struggles. The struggles were going on in the church. I was learning to play the piano in like a miraculous kind of way, just like almost overnight it seemed like. And the instrument just opened up to me overnight. But none of the kids at school were aware of any of this. They were aware of me fighting the bullies and being the outcast. And I had friends amongst the real nerds, you know, the people that were that were the victims of the bully. They liked me, and they were on my side. But, you know, Patty was still part of that other group. And I had no romantic interest at the school whatsoever. There was a little girl at church that I would see sometimes. But in the spring of that same year, with all of this stuff brewing and going on, and right at the height of all of it, really, in the spring, they had the spring talent show, which is really, it was more like in May, I think, April or May. It was towards the end of the school year. And I decided, well, I'm going to show them what I can do on the piano. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that just goes finding a piano and starts playing it to impress them, but they asked for it. They asked for a talent show, and I knew that I had talent. And my relationship with the kids at this school are about to turn on their ear over this one moment. So I worked up a original piece of music that was kind of loosely based on The Entertainer and was a ragtime piece of my own that I wrote that I still know and could play. And I prepared it and got it ready. And then they had talent show tryouts, which were dominated by the cool kids. And I think the one thing that I did like the cool kids did, and Patty was a part of this, is that they did that dwarf thing where they put tennis shoes on their knees and they look like little munchkin people, and they sang Singing in the Rain with raincoats on, with the, you know, the dwarf, the Tim Conway thing where you put shoes on your knees so you look like you have little short legs. It's funny. But that brought the house down. But when it came time to even come around to where I was going to get to perform and them hear me for the first time, they ran out of time on the tryouts, and they just came to me. And I think my mom was there because it was after school hours, so she came up there with me, and they came to me and they went, "Look, we're out of time, so you can't even really audition." And they said, "Can you play the piano at all? Can you play a tune at all?" And my mom went, "Yeah, no, he can play. He plays at church." And they went, "Okay, good enough for us." So no one had heard me play. The day of the event came, people came and did their silly little disco dances. That was a funny little bit where they acted like dwarf, and I think they were going to be hands down the winner of the spring talent contest, because it was really a funny, cute little bit they'd worked up. But they didn't really know they had a genuine professional musician looming in their midst. Somebody who had a kind of talent that they couldn't comprehend, really. for a small town like that. No one in that town had anywhere close to the talent that I had. No one, not grown or kid. And so the day of the talent show came up, and once again, I was towards the end of the program. Like, they were running out of time, and they squoze me in at the last minute. And I just walked down, sat down. They pushed the piano out. It was on skates, and they rolled it out onto the stage. And I sat down, and I played my bit, and I brought the house down. They were soon clapping. Everyone was standing on their feet. I could hear my teachers going back and forth with anyone who knew me or had any contact with me at all, shaking their head, going, "I didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't even know he could play the piano. I didn't even know he was musical." I could see all this going on while I'm playing. When I stop, cheers go up. The whole crowd goes up. It was kind of one of those, I don't know, movie moments. And yeah, they gave me the win. They just right away just went away and went, "Look, everybody was great. Everyone worked really hard, but this is a talent show, and no one had more talent than this kid." And they rubbed my head. I didn't even know this kid could even play the piano. Oh, they're like, they almost lifted me up on their shoulders like some kind of hero. It was quite fun. Of course, I was a weird, solemn kind of kid. Like, I just didn't even really respond. I'm sure I was grinning. I'm sure I was smiling. It may have been, I was kind of unaware of my expressions at that age, so I may have been smiling in a really, "I told you so, you guys are all jerks" kind of way. Revenge is best served cold. But one of the first things I noticed after my triumphal moment in school was that Patty was all over me now. Patty was up next to me in line. Patty was talking to me all the time. There was a piano in school in one of the other rooms, well, the music room, where they gave the music lessons. Everyone used to have to take music classes, and they had a piano and a bunch of percussion instruments and different things, and just a general music class that elementary school kids took in Oregon. I think they dropped it not long after I left the school program. But at any rate, that was for people who may not know what a school music program is anymore. But they had a music room, and so they would let me go in the music room and play the piano because they knew about my talent now, and it was okay for them to let me, like, yeah, of course, let him go in there and play if he wants to, before school or on recesses or whatever. So I'd pop in there and play the piano, and Patty would sit down on the next to me on the piano stool and get up next to me, and I had that moment of realization where I was like, oh, now she likes me because I can play the piano, because I'm musical. And I thought, okay, so that's that kind of that Elvis thing, that kind of rock star thing where girls like you because you can play music. And it didn't make sense to me because, I don't know, to me, music didn't have anything to do with girls. It was something spiritual and something completely unique into itself. But I made that connection right then. And I went, oh, okay. So she likes me now. And it kind of made me hate her. So now you're really getting into the inner workings of the mind of a musician. And this may tell you why some musicians are womanizers and some musicians are mean to women and they take advantage of them. Because there's a certain bitterness inside every band geek where they didn't like me before, but oh, now I pick up a guitar or now I pick up a piano and now the girls like me. So they don't like me for me, they like me for this thing I can do. And it creates a certain misogyny, I think. It can create a misogyny. For me, it was more of a bitterness. I didn't hate her, I just felt hurt. And it made me bitter. I was just like, I'm still the boy I was up there on the mountain, and up on the lake. And, and her friends were more important. But now I'm cool. So now she'll spend time with me. And so I guess at that moment in my life, I decided that kind of girl was not the kind of girl that I wanted to give my heart to. And that a girl that likes me because of my music is a girl that I do not want to, be in a relationship with, because they don't love me for me. They just love me for that thing. It's like lust. And in that moment, and as I progressed as a teenager, I began to realize that talent that I had was such an attraction, not just by women, but people in general, that I had a lot in common with very, very beautiful women. That very, very beautiful women get special treatment, and they get, everyone likes them, and they get away with a lot, and But at the same time, they don't know who really likes them for them and who's just after their body. They don't know who just wants to possess them and who actually likes them. And everyone is fake because you don't know who likes you for you as a person and who just wants in your bed. And, you know, it's the same thing as a musician. I didn't know who liked me for me and who liked me for the talent that they wanted to possess, that they had a lust for the talent that I possessed, a desire to control it. This would be a recurring theme with me in bands, in churches, in any endeavor in life, is that someone would emerge who wanted to control my talent and use it for their own benefit. And they didn't care if it hurt me. And they didn't care whether it was fair. And they didn't care whether they had to lie, cheat, or steal. They wanted to control the talent and own it. And I began to realize that must be how really beautiful women feel. Men, women, people want to own them. And so for me, it was a turning point. I realized it was a special superpower, but also as a romantic person, it was worthless to me. Because a woman that would be into me just for my music was not somebody that I wanted to be with. And so from then on, music would be an instant source of popularity for me. Instead of having to fight from here on out, I would just play the piano and suddenly my enemies would want to be my friends. Occasionally, I would encounter someone who was just plain jealous of me, but I soon got to where I didn't have to fight them to discredit them. All I had to do was remain humble and let them spin out of control with their jealousy until everyone could see what a jealous Nelly they were, and how you know, nothing they said made sense because they were blinded by their jealousy. My talent in bands. You know, later I would go on to Texas and play in a lot of bands. And it would also be a problem in bands because, you know, there's a couple kinds of musicians, really. There's two kinds of musicians. There's the kind that are born with it or it was given to them by God, and there's the kind that earned it through hard work. And the ones that earned it through hard work will never play as well as the ones who got it straight from God. In a moment of anger dealing with a jealous musician in a band once, I said something mean but very true as he was trying to discredit me in the band, and I don't remember what kind of silliness it was, but it was all just, he was just green with jealousy. You know, because this guy would have to go and work on his part. He'd work on his part 40 hours in a week. You know, he'd be on 8 hours a day. He would play till his fingers were sore. He would show up to rehearsal at the end of the week with the songs we were supposed to learn, and he would barely be able to get through a song. And if he knew the truth about me, he would have really hated me and all of the musicians. I kept this to myself. The fact that I didn't practice all week. We're going to practice next week. We got these new songs. Okay. They'd give me the cassette with the new songs on. I wouldn't even listen to them till on my way to the practice. Then I would pop it in, listen to it, and I would write the part in my head in the car. Then I would get to the practice, and I had my part already. I would just play it. And other people would work on their parts and work on their parts and work on their parts and still struggle with them. So at one point, when one of these lesser musicians who were a top musician versus somebody like me who was a born musician, when they were in a jealous fit, I looked him in the eye and I said, "Man, you can practice every day for the next 20 years. You can gig 3 times a week for the next 20 years. And when you get to the end of that 20 years, you will still not be able to play as well as I can right now." To some, that may sound arrogant, but it's the recognition, not of my greatness, but of the gift that God gave me. I recognize this isn't something that I am special because I have. It is a gift that was given to me by God. If I'm special, it's only because he chose to give me the gift. And there's something special about me that he chose to give the gift to me. And maybe it's because I could handle it. It is a powerful gift. When bad guys get the gift of music, they can be real tyrants. Just ask the women in their lives. I mean, I've known front guys that were really, you know, super talented born musicians that would get have so many women in their lives that their lives would get so complicated that it would blow up in their face. I remember one guy lost a record contract because he was sleeping around and being a womanizer and drinking too much, and then he starts having relations with the wife of the guy that owns the record label behind his back. So he's doing the guy's wife behind his back on the record label. And this guy just bought us a bus. He just bought us a tour bus, put this guy's name on the side of it, and we're fixing to hit the road. Like, we're 2 weeks out from a tour. And he gets drunk and goes over and gets in the guy's face over his wife. Like, he gets drunk and goes over and proclaims that he loves this record label guy's wife. Of course, she's denying the whole thing. She wants nothing to do with this guy. He was a thing on the side. And this whole deal just blows up in his face. He loses the record contract. He loses the tour bus. He loses, I quit him. The whole band quits him because he can't pay us, because it was the record label that was paying us, not him. And the whole thing blew up in his face because that guy had 6 or 7 women going at once. And I will say this, part of the natural gifting isn't just being able to play the piano. There is, or the guitar, or the drums, or whatever your gift. It's not just the music gift you get. You get what I call a gift package that comes with this. Really great musicians get a gift package. Other attributes, extended ability and stamina. So this is the rock star thing. A lot of people think rock stars are on drugs when they're not. And a lot of people that aren't natural musicians try to be rock stars, and they have to use drugs to do it. But natural rock stars don't even need drugs. Look at Ted Nugent. Natural musicians have this stamina and this. I mean, Ted Nugent's an old man, but he'll still go out there and get snow in his whiskers and climb into the top of a tree stand and hunt deer. And this guy's 20 years older than me. 15, 20 years older than me. So, musicians who have this natural gifting also have a huge ability to maintain themselves in long periods of time and struggle, stamina. And I don't mean just like I can stand on one foot for 4 hours, which I did most of my career. I stand on one foot, playing standing up. My right foot works the pedal. All my weight's on my left leg. So I'm basically dancing around on one leg all night while playing piano and singing. But not just that, but long term, like you can do this every night for weeks. I've gone on the road where I would get 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I'm driving the bus on 2 or 3 hours of sleep. On snowpack, after being on the road for 3 weeks, and, I'm trying to make it home. And I'm having coffee just because it's early morning. So music changes everything, but this package of gifting, it comes with this stamina. That also means sexual stamina. So typically, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but the things they say about musicians, it's true. They just can go and go and go. It's other people have to take drugs to keep up with musicians' energy levels. And part of that is the energy you get from playing live. Like, I don't have great energy when I'm retired, but when I'm taking time off. But if I'm traveling, I'm on the road, I'm playing all the time, it seems to build. It's like the music feeds it. That's why I call this a package, because it all comes together. Another thing that comes with great musical talent often is a quick mind. Because, if you look at it, I'm making musical decisions in real time while the songs are playing. I'm making decisions about the next song that's about to be played while I'm still playing the previous song. I'm making mathematical decisions that are complex. We're talking fractions and decimals and formulas of math that are being done in real time in advance of what I'm actually playing. I don't know if you can follow that, but music is math. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Look, I'm running out of time. I've been rambling here on this episode, and I'll have to stop and do another episode before I run too late. And I may run out of time on my recorder. But it was life-changing for me to realize that people would have this weird attraction, desire, and jealousy, and a need for my music, a need to possess me. And this would be a recurring theme which would present problems and challenges throughout my life and my career. And if I could blame one thing besides my own self and my own lack of drive for not becoming maybe more successful as a musician, it's because I never really learned how to deal with the jealousy and the possessiveness and the sickness that people seem to get. It's almost like an ailment when they're around people that are extremely talented and capable at making music. It's the fan thing. It's the groupie thing. I never learned how to cope with it very well, and a lot of the stories that you will hear as I continue in this series will show you how this affected my decision-making process down through my life and my career. So thanks for sitting with me through my perils of an interesting life, and there'll be more interesting stuff to come.